Where'd that screen go? Okay. Well, hi everybody. How are we doing here today? Hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for joining me here. Looks like we still get some folks coming online here. So today's topic is basically IoT, the Internet of Things, and remote monitoring with HOBO data loggers. We're going to run for about 20-25 minutes and leave some time for some questions. This is being recorded and it will be available after the webinar. During the webinar, please feel free to send in questions. I've got the panel up here, so we can take a look at anything that comes across and try to answer things as things go along here. So a little about me. My name's Scott Ellis. I'm a product manager with Onset. I've been with Onset for about 23 years now. Originally as an application specialist in the sales title, and for the past 10 plus years or so, been doing product management side. So working with the engineers and trying to bring the new products on board and work with you also to understand the needs of what we should be coming out with. A little about Onset, who we are and what we do. We make the HOBO data loggers. Our sole focus is making data loggers and monitoring. We were founded in 1981. We are located in Bourne, Massachusetts, which is on Cape Cod. This is our one and only facility. We do have a lean manufacturing operation, and we are ISO 9001 certified. So with that, I'm going to turn off the camera, I think. And let's go ahead and dive into this. So today's agenda, we're going to talk just a little high level about remote monitoring and the Internet of Things, talk about some of the applications, the benefits and wireless technology, the challenges of wireless, take a look at some of the HOBO solutions, and then of course your questions. Please feel free to queue those up and send those along as we're going along here. So the Internet of Things is here. It's been here for a while. Everything's connected nowadays. It's interesting, It's everything from your phone to your watch to all the smart home things that are going on. We were looking for a refrigerator about a year ago, and standing in the big box store and looking at that Samsung brand that tells you that you've run out of milk. So it's kind of interesting, in terms of what is connected nowadays, and really a lot of the changes have happened, really in the past 10 to 15 years. What we've seen is the growth of Bluetooth. Bluetooth Low Energy specifically really started to take things off in the mid-teens, 2014, 15. And then, it just continues to take off to, estimating 50 billion devices, connected in 2020. But there's a lot more of wireless technology out there beyond the Bluetooth. Every time you look, and I'll mention some of the other types of technology out there, but, as you see everything coming out, it's becoming more low power and higher frequency, so it can transmit further. And be a little more mainstream as well, which has really allowed folks, plus the cost has also come down. So now you can start to really put this in the consumer products, and pretty much everything. And, at the end of the day, that's where it makes our lives a little easier when it comes to data logging. Let's just take a look at some of the applications here. Onset's sort of market focus, we have kind of 4 main areas that we look at in building performance monitoring, cold chain monitoring, climate monitoring, and water monitoring. And looking at more specifically, where can it be used? Where can remote monitoring be used? This was a quote that I saw pop up from one of our customers. And, this was at the beginning of COVID, this was back March, April timeframe. They just came to us and it's like, we really love the Bluetooth solution because it really is touchless. Once you've put the thing in place, you don't really need to connect to it again or physically touch it unless you need to change the batteries, within a year or so. So, whether you're offloading to the mobile app or you're using the gateway to get the data to the cloud, there's a lot of different, options to be truly touchless. But to look at some of the applications in the cold chain space specifically, you're looking at hospitals and clinics and vaccines for children, clinical trials. Obviously, with all the new vaccines coming out, these need to be shipped in dry ice, and the temperatures need to be maintained. Goes right into pharmaceutical logistics and looking at laboratory storage. Some other applications looking at greenhouses, tidal studies, environmental monitoring, on the top of a mountainside there, agriculture, looking at farms, making sure that you're maximizing the amount of water that you're using. I don't know about, I think a lot of areas had a pretty big drought this summer, as we did up here in the Northeast. Looking at urban climate studies, looking at irrigation research, making sure that everything is working properly. Some other applications, looking at museums and libraries. It's extra important now that a lot of these facilities are closed. So there's the works of art, they need to maintain different than what the HVAC system will sometimes do and what people need to monitor. So, especially now that facilities are 50% operating and with buildings reopening, they're recommending turning on your HVAC system 2 hours before and 2 hours after to help kind of flush, a lot of the bad air out of the facility. And that falls into looking at office spaces and then looking at warehouses, storage areas, research centers, temperature controlled fish tanks, you name it, pretty much anywhere you think you can do some sort of monitoring. Being able to take advantage of the remote monitoring, essentially means that you can sit at home once these have been in place and log in and see what's going on. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits and the wireless technology. I won't say that word. I've heard it way too much. I apologize, those two words. It helps reduce costs and travel of manual offloads. You think of all those times that you've had to get on a flight and go out there or drive 5 hours and then drive back to offload things. Another benefit is you can see things in near real time. I usually say near real time because, a lot of times the data is as real time as every 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. You can get alarms and notifications. You can start to understand what's going on, within a particular field or a facility to understand if something's outside of range. You can improve your data visualization. You can set up dashboards. You can see what's going on in real time. Faster response to incidents. If something actually occurs, you can get this alert. You can pull up the data. You can do a little bit of research and say, okay, something went wrong with this particular facility. Let's say, for example, let me call somebody who's local, who's on site, and who can go take a look at this. And then in my opinion, it's convenience. Really being able to sit here and manage everything and understand what's going on without walking into a facility or even to a crop field or something like that. There's just a high convenience factor. So what to look for in choosing a system. The types of wireless technology, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. The range of measurements, you'll obviously want to understand what sort of measurements you need. And there's obviously a wide variety of things, whether you're looking at environmental things like temperature and humidity to energy monitoring like kilowatt hours, runtime of motors, light levels, all that sort of good stuff. So as you're looking at the new technology, it's definitely important that they have a wide variety of measurements. And going along with that is accuracy as well. I've recently seen some things coming out on Amazon and some of these big box stores where, they're cool little devices. They're definitely more targeted at the consumer market. And, we understand that folks will try to use these in the commercial and other spaces, but just, be sure to take a look and make sure that there is a stated accuracy. Sometimes you'll see that there's not. So you may have to read a manual to take a look at things. Battery life. You'll find that battery life is a game of specsmanship in many ways. Some people claim, you have a 10-year battery life, but that's if you're recording a reading once an hour and it uploads the data to the cloud once a day. So as opposed to most of our battery life is spec'd around 1 minute data logging, and sending data up to the cloud every 10 minutes. So people spec things different ways, but definitely, take a look at and understand those. And if something's rechargeable, do you need to plug that back into USB? Do you need to replace batteries? Those are all things that you need to take into consideration as you're looking at systems. The cost of ownership, and I'll touch on that. I've got a slide on that just to understand what it really means to get into some of these remote monitoring systems. There's two types of networks out there. There's a mesh network. So a meshing network means that that the sensors can not only send data, but they can also receive data. And this is a way essentially that it will help extend networks for larger facilities. So these can continue to hop out and grow the network. And the central hub or the station that's transmitting all that data doesn't necessarily have to be centrally located. Whereas when you look at a star network, essentially everything's just being transmitted in from the sensors back to a centralized location or a gateway or a hub that then is bouncing the information out. So you'll need to understand what type of networks or what type of wireless networks are available with the systems that you're looking at. The different types of protocols, there's a lot out there. NFC, RFID, you need to be right on top of things. Bluetooth Low Energy is one of the technologies that Onset uses with the 4.0. There's obviously Wi-Fi, Zigbee, LoRa, cellular, and satellite. So a lot of different things to choose from, and each of them kind of have their own benefits. But those are things to keep in mind. Also, which wireless protocol is it on? Is it on the 900 megahertz, or is it on 2.4 gigahertz, or are you looking at cellular or satellite? One of the things to keep in mind is the cost of ownership. Is everything included? Do you own your data? For web-based platforms, are there additional fees? A lot of times you're going to find that there could be a free service, but then if you want additional features or be able to store the data longer, or based upon the number of loggers or sensors that are being connected to an account, or even some folks charge for alarms and alerts. So those are things that you should certainly look at when you, or at least dive into as you start to looking at the systems out there. And then of course general maintenance. Are you replacing batteries? Do you need to replace sensors? And then of course lost loggers. As we know, unfortunately, when you put things in a public setting, sometimes things get legs and they walk away, mainly because people don't understand what they are. Now, we've had a lot of customers that'll actually put a little sign up underneath one of the loggers and say, this is an environmental monitoring system, or it's a temperature monitoring system, and at least try to put something there and, you know, basically make folks think that it's not a camera watching them or something along those lines. The challenges of wireless. Can you hear me now? You know, what I'll say here is, as you're looking to do monitoring, no matter where it is, you really need to understand the environment that you're trying to get through. Obviously, if it's your own facility, you probably know what it's made out of. But if you're a consultant, for example, you need to understand what sort of walls we're dealing with. Are we dealing with concrete? Are we dealing with metal versus are we dealing, you know, with just sheetrock, you know, and things along those lines. You know, the classic example that I've heard where some folks have had some issues is crops growing. They do that over the course of the summer. Typically, they start from being small and then they get up tall, and sometimes they can actually block the wireless signal because they've gotten too tall. So you know, again, those are some things that, you know, take into consideration as you're starting to look at systems and starting to actually plan. Okay, where exactly do I need to monitor within my facility? And then, are there things that I'm going to need in addition? Will I need repeaters? Will I need extra gateways? Will I, you know, those are things that you need to take into consideration as you start to look at the different options. So that's kind of a high level sort of overview of some of the technology that's out there. What I do is like to take a look at some of the HOBO solutions. We actually offer kind of two separate solutions at this point. One is our HOBO MX Bluetooth series, which that can communicate to a mobile phone or a tablet within 100 foot range. But we also offer a gateway. So if you then want to get that data remotely, it basically communicates to the gateway and gets the data out from there. The other system that we have is something called HOBONet, which this was originally designed for an agricultural setting, and you know, we've definitely seen the benefits of this. It actually uses the 900 megahertz bandwidth, which is much better for penetrating through some of those tougher walls, concrete, crops, vegetation, all that sort of stuff. So I'll talk a little bit about this system in a minute here. But the gateway basically is going to send near real-time data up to our cloud service, which is called HOBO Link. You can set and receive alarm notifications. So if something goes outside of range, actually I just got an alert to my phone just before this that one of my loggers here at the house has a low battery. If a logger stopped or if something's gone missing. Again, this is a star network, so all of the Bluetooth loggers need to be within 100-foot range of the gateway. The gateway communicates to the internet through Wi-Fi or Ethernet. The gateway itself is AC powered, so there's a wall wart that it comes with, or you can use power over Ethernet. It's compatible with all the MX loggers, and again, it reduces the number of trips into the field. There is a HOBO Link subscription fee for the gateway, which is $50 a year. So in terms of the different measurements that we offer and the different loggers that we offer for the Bluetooth series, our most popular one is the temperature and humidity. We're seeing a lot now with actually carbon dioxide. Folks have been starting to put these into schools to basically be able to prove that they're getting enough fresh air in there at the end of the day. And then the two bottom loggers are something that we came out with over the winter. And that really kind of expands our measurements because it has external inputs on it. And it allows you to connect up to different types of measurements, including AC current, air velocity, gauge pressure, as well as just third-party sensors that we may not carry. We can take in a 4 to 20 milliamp input or a DC voltage input. One of the questions is how long can the MX data store data for once they've started, and battery life. So on all these loggers that I'm talking about, the minimum battery life is 1 year, except for the CO2 logger. The carbon dioxide logger, you get about a 6 to 9 month battery life on that, just because the CO2 sensor is a little more power hungry. All of the data loggers store at least a minimum of 90,000 measurements. Some of them can store up to basically 2 million measurements. To give you for instance, if you're monitoring temperature and humidity at a 15-minute logging interval, you can run for just over a year before your memory fills up. I did want to highlight a couple of our weatherproof and waterproof loggers here that are in the Bluetooth series. The weatherproof ones here are typically used in more rugged applications, either outside. Let's say you need to get an outside temperature and humidity measurement, or you're in a spray down situation, or you may be in a walk-in cooler or freezer where the environment may be a little more rugged. You may want to take a look at some of these loggers here. They are rated to go down to -40, and they are, again, weatherproof. The other product line that I like to bring up is the waterproof loggers. And to use a quote from my daughter, wait, what? This is true. Bluetooth cannot communicate through water. But I bring these up because at the end of the day, they're a very low-cost solution for a very rugged logger. If you're just looking for a temperature logger, it stores 96,000 measurements. It has a user-replaceable battery, which is good for 1 to 2 years, and they're waterproof to 100 feet, meaning these things can take a pretty good beating. But I've seen a lot of folks use this in, say, like temperature stratification, where you string a bunch of these to a string, and sort of drop them down into this sort of big open area to understand what's kind of going on in here. So a couple questions here in terms of the gateway and how do they work, and how does the system get up and going with the Bluetooth loggers. So hopefully I can touch on these, Andy and Sven, on this. So initially, when you set this up, you're going to want to create a HOBO Link account. You do use your mobile device to initially connect to the gateway to set up the Wi-Fi and Ethernet settings. That's also going to be given, the gateway is going to be given the username and password, so it goes up to the appropriate HOBO Link account. Next, you're going to configure your loggers using your mobile device as well. So you're going to go in and set the recording interval, give it a name, set any alarm thresholds, and once you start that up, that too will have the HOBO Link username and password, so that goes up into the appropriate cloud. Now, once that's been configured and it's off and running, you're going to go deploy it, and then the gateway will start collecting the data from the loggers that are within range. What if there's a situation where you need multiple gateways? That's no problem. Actually, at the house here, since I brought everything home when they told me to go home in March, I've got about 130 loggers here spread throughout the house, outside, in my garden. They're everywhere. And essentially, I have 2 gateways working in here. Now, there's a number of loggers that'll hit both gateways. The data will still go up to the cloud, but the cloud figures it out, so you're not getting any duplicate data. So when you're setting up this particular system, you can have gateways that are potentially overlapping a couple loggers. Again, just some of the features of HOBO Connect. Some of you may be familiar with HOBO Mobile. we have come out with a new app called HOBO Connect. For our Android users, I highly recommend you take a look at HOBO Connect. We've rebuilt it from the ground up. It works 100 times better. Just go take a look at it, download it from Google Play and check it out. But essentially, you know, it gives you all the ability to be able to program everything. You can also download the data. Again, if you're on site, you know, there's a number of applications that you know, let's say you're walking through an apartment building. You know, maybe you're not doing the true remote capabilities using a gateway, but you can usually communicate within an apartment. So if you're just kind of walking through, you can go through and offload the loggers that way without entering somebody's residence. And at the end of the day, you're able to view the data and export it out to a CSV, XLS file, or for those of you who may be familiar with our desktop program called HOBOware, it'll create a HOBOware file for you as well. Oh, geez, I'm long-winded, aren't I? All right, let me wrap this up here. We'll touch on these other ones in a second, sorry. And I will come back around to HOBO Link here in just a second. So taking a look at the HOBOnet system, this system's a little different where it runs on the 900 megahertz. It is a mesh network. You can connect up to 50 sensors per station. We've seen it, we've spec'd it outside at 2,000 feet line of sight. I've personally seen this go through, you know, 3 floors that were made out of 18 inches of cement and communicate fine. They do have a 1-year battery life. You do need a station. So whether you're going to choose to get your data out through cellular or whether you get that out through Wi-Fi or Ethernet, you'll need to choose that up front in terms of what works best for you. So in terms of the question regarding the fee for the HOBO Link or cloud service, it's essentially tied to the gateways. So whether that's the Micro RX here, the RX 3000, or the MX gateway, there's a data plan associated with that there. Kind of looking beyond just temperature and humidity, you know, with this particular product line, we get into a wide variety of other sensors that we have here. Now, a lot of these are more agricultural based, totally understood. We do have something with a temperature probe and a temperature and humidity probe. We also have a pulse input. So if you're going to be connecting up to a kilowatt-hour transducer, or let's say a flow sensor, you would be able to use that sensor as well. Now, this is something that we are going to be expanding upon the product line in the year 2021. So there'll be more measurements to come with this particular system. One of the advantages of HOBO Link, and I am wrapping this up here, I just got a couple more slides. I know we're kind of up on it, but the data visualization that you can see using the map view within HOBO Link, you can go through and place the loggers, the sensors on the map, and then you can see how they can communicate. And as you'll see here, a number of these are communicating either straight back to the home base, or they're communicating through each other and finding their way back home. And that's one of the things about the HOBOnet system as well, is if you take one out of the system, it's then going to try to find its next best friend to talk to and get the data back home. So what you'll find a lot of times is that these systems will begin to learn over time in terms of, you know, who's the strongest partner kind of next to it. There's also a dashboard view. It's a very basic view. There's a number of more widgets that we have in place, but I just wanted to give an example here of a local restaurant that, or a farm, I should say, where they're producing dairy products, and they have 8 different coolers and refrigerators. And a quick snapshot, you can go in and see, you know, okay, here's my view. I can see some trend data in terms of what's going on. One of the nice things about this too is we offer a public URL. So you can kind of see, you can share a link with a client so they can log in and see what's going on. In terms, there was a question regarding an API. So yes, we do offer an API, the web services for HOBO Link. So if you do want to write your own program or have your own service to get the data off of our cloud service to yours, that certainly is a possibility. So we do have a guide on our website, but please feel free to reach out to either our tech folks or our application specialists, and they can get you that document as well. I see a lot of questions coming in. So for the water level folks, Sven and Rosie, I actually, you know, I took that slide out. I took the slide out regarding water level just because we haven't had anybody purchase one yet. But we do have. Sorry, I'll go. Let me put that back up there for you, Sven. You can check out what we offer in terms of the API. But on the water level, we do have a Bluetooth water level logger, and it's a wired system. So at the top you have your baro sensor, and at the bottom you have your other pressure transducer. As long as the top head is out of the water, which it needs to be anyways, that can communicate with the gateway. Actually, believe it or not, I have kind of a hydroponic system here for growing tomatoes at the house, and I've been monitoring my water level and also the pH. We do have a pH logger as well. So I was looking at the pH of my tomatoes and cucumbers all summer, as well as the pool, believe it or not. So yeah, and I think a link just got sent out to the Bluetooth logger as well. So definitely take a look at that. But there is a possibility to do that. Sven, hopefully I answered your question on the API. What I'd say is just reach out to us afterwards, or I'll have somebody follow up and email you the API information on the HOBO Link side of things. Kemba, where'd that go? Oh, it just moves. Yeah, keep the questions coming in. I'll stay on as long as you guys want to. Entirely up to you all. So, can the loggers read through a tank wall? It depends upon what the tank's made out of, but typically yes. You know, the Bluetooth maybe doesn't communicate as far, but the 900 megahertz. You know, that actually, I've been really impressed with the system, you know, in terms of what I've been seeing it do. Same with Margaret. You know, you're looking at metal chests and freezers, looking at temperature and humidity. Yeah, I would definitely look at the HOBONet systems. At the dairy farm that we're working with in Rhode Island, they had initially put in the Bluetooth loggers, and at the end of the day, yes, Connie, this is being recorded, and a link will be sent out later. The Bluetooth, you know, if you only have a couple walk-in coolers or refrigerators, Bluetooth might be good with a gateway that was centrally located. But the way that this facility was laid out, they had 8 different refrigerators and freezers throughout the facility. And as opposed to, I guesstimated that we'd probably have to put in 3 of the Bluetooth gateways. So we ended up going with the HOBONet system, and basically everything is communicating right back to the main gateway itself. And the gateway is kind of, you know, located in a funky place over in the office. So everything's kind of made its way back. There's a couple that are hopping through. So the HOBONet, they're not necessarily using LoRa technology, but it's based around that. So the LoRa is long range wireless essentially, using the 900 megahertz and a lot of its meshing technology. It's not true LoRa, but it's kind of a version of that. Troy, does the memory overwrite the oldest data or stop when the memory's maxed? So on the Bluetooth loggers, when you're working with the gateway, I absolutely recommend putting it into wrap mode. So when the memory fills up, it'll start overwriting the oldest data. Obviously, if the logger stops, that kind of defeats the purpose of remote monitoring. And the HOBOnet system actually does that automatically for you. So the pH logger, in terms of the pH logger and the accuracy and how long do they last, Joseph, you need to replace the electrode every 6 months. So I would definitely take a look at the website. That the manual actually definitely gets into it more, but yeah, it's typically about 6 months. Troy, you want to operate a 4 to 20 pressure transducer for a pump control system. Yeah, I would take a look at what we call our MX1104 or 05. It has an analog input, and essentially using a 4 to 20 milliamp, you can connect that up. You may need to provide power. So that's the one thing that the MX product does not provide, is excitation power. So we do offer a wall wart, or I have talked to customers that get one of those lithium-ion batteries. It depends upon how long you're deploying it for. I know sometimes people look at remote monitoring solutions as being, 24/7, 365 nonstop. Others who are in the consulting business may look at it as a month or 2 month time frame. Let me see here. Light monitoring, best Holly light monitoring in a museum. I would take a look at the MX product line. 2 specifically is the MX1104 and the MX2202. They actually have the same light sensor being used in both products. So that it gives you general light levels. It's not as accurate as a handheld meter, but I do know a lot of folks that will use that. And compare the readings up to a handheld meter. Okay, so a good question here, Allison. When you're looking between the 2 systems, I realize that the Bluetooth loggers with the MX, they just communicate Wi-Fi or Ethernet from the gateway. Now, one of the things that, as much as we all love our IT people, we know that sometimes they can be challenging, but we do love them. But sometimes we just need to go around them. And one of the things that I have used, you can go to Best Buy and get a cheap like MiFi, and what that is, for like $40, you can get basically it comes with a SIM card in it. The data plans are as low as $10 a month, and then you can connect the gateway. That uses Wi-Fi to connect to that wireless hub, that cellular hub, and gets the data out that way. Oh, yeah, perfect. Keep using the MiFi. That will certainly work for you. And again, the differences between the Bluetooth and the HOBOnet really comes down to range. And what are you trying to cover? How large is your facility? How far do you need to go? Oh, this keeps moving on me. Okay, let me see if I can touch on this here. Yeah, range is definitely the key factor there. Is there a 230 volt version of the plugin? Jordan, I need to check into that. I don't know the answer to that. I think everything still needs to be 120. I need to check on that. I don't believe there. Oh, for the plug load, there's definitely not a 230 version. It's just 120. Let me go back to this. So, how many individual real estate, residential, commercial that monitor, connect through management office through Bluetooth with private access or lockout paper, number of mounts. So I'm not sure if I completely understand this question here, but you know, in terms of being able to provide records, paper records, that's one of the things that you can get not only straight off of the data loggers themselves using the app to download, and then you know you can print the graph or you can get that over to Excel. But one of the advantages of HOBO Link is that you know all the individual loggers. So anybody who's used USB loggers in the past, you download 20 loggers, you get 20 files that you need to put together. It's a pain in the neck. With HOBO Link, now that the 20 loggers, all that data has come into a central location, you can do an export and say, give me all these loggers for this particular time frame, and I just want to look at temperature. I don't care about humidity, for example, or dew point, and then export this to Excel. And then you can kind of create and generate reports from there. You can also take screenshots of some of the graphs, kind of like what I had shown of the dashboard. So if you're looking to incorporate those into any of your presentations as well, you can do that as well. Question for those of us who need external sensors for the HOBONet system, what are we looking at for 2021? Yes, stay tuned. So we are looking at having an analog input version for HOBONet in 2021. We're actually just in the planning stages at this point, so I don't know when that will come, but that is something that will absolutely be coming. Yeah, it's going to be it's really going to open up that product line in my opinion. Eric, if you're having trouble setting up a gateway, definitely reach out to our tech support folks. Give Mike DeLellis, give him a buzz. Call in 800-564-4377 and talk to Mike. What I'll say is if you're on, make sure it's WPA or WPA2 encryption. So we're not compatible with WEP settings if you're trying to set that up through Wi-Fi. And actually, if you have an open network, we actually just released another version of HOBO Connect that fixed a bug. You used to have to, it was mandatory that you had to put in a password. So make sure you get the latest, you know, the latest apps that we just released, and that just came out yesterday. So it looks like the questions have kind of slowed down, and I'm well over my time. And there's still 73 of you here, so thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. One of the things that so I'm being asked by my marketing person that there will be a survey after this, and you know, please leave feedback. I do go through the feedback, good or bad. I had somebody here already left me something kind of funky and bounced off the webinar. I guess it wasn't his thing, so that's okay. But you know, and if you have a project that's coming up, it looks like some of you do have something that's going on. Just click yes and say that you want somebody to reach out to you. Greg, you're going to get an email that will have a link to the webinar. We typically post the webinar on our YouTube channel, but that usually takes a couple weeks to get out there. But since you've attended the webinar, there'll be a follow-up email that goes out tomorrow. So tomorrow or the next day. So stay tuned. That will be coming through. Thanks, Greg. So with that, I will say thank you very much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday wherever you're at in the world, and stay healthy and safe. Thanks again, folks.